Once upon a time, in a quiet town near the hills of Switzerland, there was a young man named Emil. He lived in a small village called Lauterbrunnen. It was a beautiful place with green trees, soft snow on the mountains, and sweet air in the morning. But even though the place was beautiful, Emil's heart was not always happy. He was a kind and simple boy. He worked at a local bakery with his father, making bread every morning before the sun came up. Emil loved his village. He loved his family, but deep inside, he always felt something was missing. That missing piece was the English language. He could not speak English, not one full sentence, just a few words like hello, how are you, and goodbye. He felt shy, weak, and sometimes even foolish when someone tried to talk to him in English. One cold winter morning, something happened that changed Emil's life forever. He saw her at the train station. She had golden hair, wore a red coat, and smiled at everyone. Her name was Elena. She had just come back from London, where she studied for 2 years. She spoke fluent English. When she talked, it was like music, soft, confident, and beautiful. Everyone at the station looked at her with respect and love. Emil stood there, watching her speak to a group of tourists in perfect English. His heart beat faster, not because she was beautiful, but because she was strong. Her voice had power. Her English made people listen. Emil had never felt that way before, and in that moment he whispered to himself, "One day I will speak like her." The days passed, and Emil kept thinking about Elena. She became a symbol in his mind, not just of love, but of the life he wanted. He saw her again at the town festival. She was laughing with friends, many of them foreigners, and speaking English so fluently. Emil walked past her, silent. He wanted to talk, but fear sat on his tongue like a heavy stone. That night, Emil could not sleep. His heart was full of questions. Why can't I speak English? Why am I so afraid? Why do I feel so small? He sat near the fireplace and made a promise, a deep, strong promise. I will learn English. I will become fluent, not just for her, not just for love, but for myself. So the journey began. Emil bought his first English book the next day. It was a basic grammar book. The words were strange. The rules confused him. He read the first page 5 times, but he did not give up. Every day after work, he sat in his room for 1 hour studying English. Slowly, very slowly, the words began to make sense. He started listening to English songs, watching English movies, and reading English children's books. His pronunciation was not perfect. He made many mistakes. He laughed at himself sometimes, but he kept going. 3 months passed. He could now introduce himself. "My name is Emil. I live in Switzerland. I like music and bread." It was not much, but to him, it was gold. He went to the town's language cafe every weekend and tried to talk with tourists. He smiled, used simple sentences, and asked small questions. "Where are you from? Do you like Switzerland?" Most people were kind. Some smiled, some helped, and every kind word pushed Emil forward. Every small talk gave him hope, but not everyone believed in him. One day, while he was speaking to a tourist at the cafe, a man from the village laughed at him. "Why do you try so hard? You will never sound like them," the man said. His words were sharp like ice. Emil felt his heart fall. He went home and cried quietly, but then he looked at his English book and whispered again, "I will become fluent. I will not stop." More months passed. Emil's English grew stronger. He started thinking in English. He dreamed in English. He even began writing small stories. His favorite was one he called The Boy Who Learned. He wrote about a boy who had no voice, but then found his words, their courage and practice. One evening, while walking by the river, Emile saw Elena again. This time she was sitting alone, reading a book. She looked up and smiled. Emile took a deep breath. He walked to her and said, "Hi, Elena, it's a nice evening, isn't it?" She looked surprised, then smiled wider. "Yes, it is," she said. "Your English is good." Those words felt like a flower opening in the sun. Emile sat with her and they talked, slowly, carefully, but clearly. He told her about his journey, about the promise he made, about the nights he stayed up learning words. Elena listened quietly. Her eyes were soft. "I think that's beautiful," she said. "You didn't give up. That's true strength." Weeks later, they met again and again. They shared stories in English. They laughed. They understood each other more and more. One spring morning, Elena held his hand and said, "I want you to know something. I admire you. I married a man once who spoke fluent English, but he never listened. He never tried to understand. You speak with heart. That means more than perfect grammar." Now Emile smiled with pride. The journey had been long. It was still going. But he had become what he dreamed of, a fluent English speaker, and not just in words, but in confidence, in spirit, and in heart. Every morning now began not just with bread in the bakery, but with 20 minutes of English practice. His voice was more sure, his words had more meaning, and his dreams had grown bigger. He did not stop at just speaking English. He wanted to help others like him, people who once felt small, people who were told they could never speak English fluently. So Emile began something special. He opened a small class in the back of the bakery. He called it the Quiet English Room. It was for farmers, workers, old ladies, shy children, anyone who wanted to learn but didn't know how to start. He painted the room white. He put posters of simple English phrases on the walls. He brought in tea and warm cookies for the learners. "No fear," he said, "only learning." The class became full every weekend. People from the village who had never spoken English before were now trying. Slowly, carefully, they spoke, one word at a time, just like Emile had once done, and he was there to guide them, to show them that even a village boy, who once could not say a full English sentence, could now teach others how to believe in their voice. One day, a woman came to Emile's class with her young son. She looked tired, like life had been hard for her. She said, "I don't want much. I just want my son to feel brave when he speaks. Can you help him?" Emile looked at the boy and saw himself, scared, small and unsure. He kneeled and said softly, "Yes, I can, because I was him." He taught the boy how to say, "Hello, my name is Luca." Then he clapped with joy. The boy smiled wide. It was a simple sentence, but it was magic. News of Emile's little English room spread to nearby towns. People came from other villages to learn. A man from Germany visited and said, "You speak like someone who grew up with English." Emile smiled and replied, "No, I just refuse to give up." Elena was always by his side now. She helped him teach, she laughed with him, and sometimes, when they were alone under the stars, she would tell him, "I never knew English could sound this beautiful until you spoke it." One warm evening, she stood in the same spot at the train station where Emile had first seen her long ago. She looked at him and said, "Do you remember the first time we saw each other here?" Emile nodded. "Yes, you spoke English like the world was your home. I watched you and decided I will become one too." And now they were both there, not just speaking English, but using it to lift others up. Emile's journey had started with pain, with silence, but it became a story of hope, love, and never giving up. One of the village elders, who once laughed at Emile's broken English, now sat quietly in his class, trying to say, "I want to learn too." Emile helped him like a friend, without any pride, because he knew the truth. Everyone can learn, but only if they believe it's possible. Then one day, something beautiful happened. A letter came from the city school. It said, "We have heard about your English classes. We would like you to come and speak to our students." Emile stood frozen, reading the letter again and again. He had once feared speaking even one sentence. Now he was being invited to speak to hundreds. He went to the school. He walked to the stage. He looked at the crowd. His hands were shaking. But then he remembered that cold winter night, the promise he made, the broken words, the small steps, and he began. He spoke slowly, clearly, and from his heart. He told them, "I was not born with English. I learned it step by step. I failed many times, but I never stopped. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin." The students clapped. Some stood up, some cried, and Emile smiled, not because he was proud of himself, but because he knew he had become what he had once only dreamed of. Years later, people in the town still told the story of the baker boy who married a fluent English speaker and became one too. But the real magic was not in marriage or fluency. It was in courage. The courage to face fear. The courage to speak even when your voice shakes. The courage to become something new, something strong, something better, just because you believe in it with all your heart. And so Emile's story became more than a success story. It became a light for those who felt lost, a soft voice whispering, "You can do it too." The story ends with this thought: sometimes the person who changes your life doesn't give you their hand. They give you a reason to rise.